But first, the business of peace. That's the focus of tonight's angle. Now, what's better, fighting wars or making money? On day 2 of his trip to the Middle East, Donald Trump once again bet on peace and prosperity, and he bet big. We see him working 24/7 trying to build more jobs and wealth for Americans at home, and at the same time, build a more peaceful world. Now, after a dizzying pace of meetings in Saudi Arabia yesterday, Trump moved on to Qatar, announcing another windfall for America. More than $243 billion in new deals. Now, the investments pledged will directly and indirectly create hundreds of thousands of jobs in the United States, perhaps more. The biggest deal involves an American company that struggled in recent years and needed today's news badly. Of course, I'm talking about Boeing. Qatar agreed to purchase as many as 210 American-made Boeing 787 Dreamliners and 777X jets. GE Aerospace produces the engines. The deal, $96 billion. Then there's an energy infrastructure deal, $8.5 billion. Parsons, they nabbed 30 projects worth $97 billion, including major airport construction. And the Trump administration announced a $1 billion quantum technology deal that apparently is extremely important. And of course, Qatar also made major defense industry investments, which means the workers and shareholders of Raytheon and General Atomics should be very happy today. And if that wasn't enough on his plate, Trump all week long has kept his sights on peace. India and Pakistan, 2 nuclear powers, are on the brink. Well, the Trump administration worked the phones, undoubtedly helping to ease tensions, even if India doesn't want to give President Trump credit. Okay, they're always like that. And the ceasefire is holding. And with Russia and Ukraine, Trump's been a consistent force for peace. And of course, he's defying the war hawks all along. Trump's still pushing for peace tonight. Zelensky's in Turkey, and a Russian delegation will meet with his team on Thursday. Now, after everything he's done to start peace talks, Democrats' old criticisms, though, seem so silly tonight.
The person who's running the executive branch is a deranged, unhinged, dangerous president.
The president takes no responsibility, refuses to lead, blames others, cozies up to dictators.
The president of the United States is so unstable, is so volatile, has a decision-making process that is so quixotic that he might order a nuclear weapons strike.
Ooh, SAT word, quixotic. But as usual, of course, they were all wrong. Trump wants Russia and Ukraine to agree to a 30-day ceasefire. There could also be discussions, we understand tonight, about a huge prisoner of war exchange. So Trump's the opposite of dangerous.
This has been a very interesting couple of hours. We discussed the world. We discussed Russia and Ukraine, where you've been a tremendous help in so many different ways. We certainly discussed Iran, where it's been really an interesting situation. I have a feeling it's going to work out. I think it's going to work.
We'll see. But there's no challenge that Trump is backing away from, with Trump even urging Syria to chart a new way forward.
I am also ordering the cessation of sanctions against Syria to give them a fresh start. It gives them a chance for greatness. The sanctions were really crippling, very powerful. And I spoke to Mohammed, and I spoke to our friend from Turkey, who we just spoke to also by phone now. But felt very strongly that this would give them a chance. It's not going to be easy anyway, so it gives them a good, strong chance.
Yeah, it's wild, right? You know, we all know Syria's past, its repression, support of terrorists. But with this audacious move, Trump is winning praise from the unlikeliest people. It almost makes me nervous, including the guy who helped bring down Mike Flynn. In the Washington Post, David Ignatius wrote that American foreign policy has been stuck within a set of fixed parameters for several decades, and it's worth giving them a fresh look. Well, for all the criticisms that they've leveled at Trump, all they've accused him of over the years, the press really never understood him. They never understood that Donald Trump never, ever gives up on peace, for the precise reason he never gives up on America. Who can forget this moment?
My friend.
good to see you again.
이런 데서 각하를 만나게 될 줄 생각 못했어요.
I've never expected to meet you at this place.
That's good. That's my honor.
Now, right there, he showed the world what? That he would meet with anyone. It was a signal that he was willing to have a conversation if the other side was willing to meet him halfway. And yeah, there's precedent for this. Remember the other president we had who came from New York society, Teddy Roosevelt? You know, he won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1905 because he brokered a deal to end the Russo-Japanese War. He invited Russia and Japan to come to Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and he engaged in a little shuttle diplomacy, as it wasn't called that then, but he made time to go up there. People thought Roosevelt was just an outdoorsman, a cowboy, but he was also from elite New York society. He was a member of the Priscillian Club at Harvard. He knew the value of peace. First American to win the Nobel Prize, Peace Prize. And so does President Trump. He gets what peace is. Donald Trump knows that being president isn't just sitting in the Situation Room and ordering missile strikes, all the photo ops, remember those? Sometimes a president needs to get on a plane and work for peace. Putting America first can't ever mean putting peace last. We may never see another president like this again. It's doubtful. Because he's trying to take on many of the toughest problems all at once. The stupid, short-sighted policies of previous presidents destroyed our edge in manufacturing and kept us mired in Iraq and Afghanistan. But Trump, he's the best salesman for the U.S. industry, the best I've ever seen. And he's the best salesman I've ever seen for peace. He starts with the right question. If we don't make medicines, ships, electronics, maybe at some point commercial jetliners, steel, aluminum, automobiles, how the heck are we going to remain a superpower? Like most of you, the angle was frustrated. We were angry and worried for 4 long years as we watched America drift aimlessly without a real president. My, how things have changed. Now that we have a real president who embraces the job and goes full throttle, round the clock, for America first. And that's the angle.
Trump's caught in the middle of an Arab love triangle. 2 Middle Eastern leaders want the president all to themselves. 47 left Saudi Arabia this morning. The prince was so sad to see him go, he rode along in the beast and waved goodbye at the gate. But it's not goodbye, it's see you later. The president has more deals to make. Next stop, Qatar. Saudi Arabia had gone all out. Qatar said, we can top that. The Saudis had 5 jets escort Trump. Qatar sent 8. Trump watched the F-15s through the window, and they were watching back. We caught one pilot snapping a picture of POTUS. But the press corps, full of panicins.
You're going to be surrounded by 8 fighters, you know, in about 7 minutes. And then you say, do we need them? And when they say yes, that doesn't make me feel good, right?
What's the threat? Did they tell you what the threat is?
No, let's assume there's no threat. We have to assume that.
Instead of lavender, the Qataris went with a Republican red carpet with gold trim, Trump's favorite. The Sheikh met the Trump on the tarmac, and they rolled into town with a Cybertruck cavalry. Electric cars in an oil kingdom. Go figure. In the harbor, boats were using American flags for sails. The Saudis had white Arabian horses. Qatar had horses, camels, and sword dancers. The Saudis sent us a rare Arabian leopard. She's sleeping at the Smithsonian Zoo in D.C. But Trump's really more of a camel guy. The only thing he likes more than camels is marble.
You look at this, it's so beautiful. As a construction person, I'm seeing perfect marble. This is what they call perfecto. And just a great job you've done, and what a beautiful place. And we appreciate those camels. I haven't seen camels like that in a long time.
The Qatari leader was thrilled to have an American president in town.
We're extremely honored to have you here. We're very excited, very happy. It's a historic visit. And I don't know if you know that you are the first American president to officially to visit Qatar. Right. So we're very honored. We're very honored.
But Trump just couldn't stop thinking about the Saudi prince.
We always had a very special relationship. And we came from Saudi Arabia, where we have another great man over there that's a friend of yours. And you two guys get along so well and like each other. You sort of remind me a little bit of each other, if you want to know the truth. They're both tall, handsome guys that happen to be very smart. But he's also a very special guy.
The Qatari said, forget about the prince. Why don't we just go back to my place?
Nice house. Nice house.
That might be the only house Trump likes more than Mar-a-Lago. Must be the marble. Then the Qatari threatened Trump to dinner and a show. After the sword dance, some music. But this wasn't an intimate dinner.
I have a very good friend on my left. He said, do you mind if I invite just a few guests? And do you mind shaking hands with them just before dinner? I said, sure. I didn't know you were going to have 400 people. No, it's an honor. So I know so many of you, so many great people.
Then the Qataris started speaking Trump's language.
Together, the U.S. and Qatar are feeding and fueling the world. This energy partnership alone is also valued over $1.5 trillion. So we have been drilling for the last 4 years. I'm glad to have you back on board.
Qatar's pumping oil and sending us the money. $1.2 trillion? Not a bad thing for a day in Doha. Qatar put in the biggest order for Boeings ever. 210. That's $100 billion. But this trip isn't all about money. Trump did something no president has done in 25 years. He met with Syria's president, who used to be a bad guy, but now he's our bad guy. Trump won't inherit Biden's foreign policy. Fresh face, fresh start.
How did you find the Syrian president?
Great. Great. I think very good. Young, attractive guy, tough guy. You know, strong pass. Very strong pass fighter.
Trump shocked the world by lifting sanctions on Syria. He says he's giving them a chance at greatness. We're trying to peel Syria away from Russia and have them play nice with Israel, and peel Syria away from Iran. The less friends Iran has in the neighborhood, the better chance they sign the nuke deal.
I hope you can help me with the Iran situation, because it's a perilous situation, and we want to do the right thing. We want to do something that's going to save maybe millions of lives. We're really helping the region, we're helping the world, we're helping your country, and we'll try and get it done. If we can, we're going to try and get it done. They have to move quickly, and I just hope Iran realizes what a good friend they have right here.
If we can sign a nuke deal with Iran, we can lower sanctions and bring their oil back online. And when we get the Saudis to pump more oil, it'll drive the price down, starve Russia's war machine, and force Putin to the negotiating table and end the war in Ukraine. We're also selling these Arabs chips, weapons, and if Netanyahu settles the war in Gaza, the Gulf states will re-up the Abraham Accords, and we can all do business with Israel. Everyone will be doing business together, Jews, Muslims, and the United States. Moscow will be pushed out of the region, China will be pushed out, and you'll have a nice U.S.-sponsored trade alliance with an American security blanket, soft and cozy. Then we can pivot out of that desert back to the Western Hemisphere and to the Far East. It's where the action is. His main pitch this week is make money, not war. Trade goods, not missiles. It's a Hail Mary, and it might work.
And welcome to Hannity, and we are coming to you from Doha, Qatar. It is 9 o'clock on the East Coast, 4 a.m. here in Qatar, and tonight we'll bring you part 2 of my exclusive interview with President Trump aboard Air Force One. We covered a ton of ground. It went on for nearly 50 minutes. All of that, part 2, coming up. You don't want to miss it. But first, another historic day for the United States of America. President Trump began the day with more high-level meetings in Saudi Arabia, including one with the president of Syria. Trump urging him to normalize relations with Israel, just like he did Saudi Arabia, and reject radicalism. In return, President Trump is lifting U.S. sanctions on Syria to, quote, give them a chance at greatness. Take a look for yourself.
Among others, and friends of mine, people that I have a lot of respect for in the Middle East, I will be ordering the cessation of sanctions against Syria in order to give them a chance at greatness.
Now, before departing Saudi Arabia, President Trump also addressed the Gulf Cooperation Council, and I was at this meeting, where he hailed the progress being made in the region and painted an optimistic picture of lasting peace in one of the world's most volatile regions. Take a look at this.
As I said in my address last night, the Gulf nations are at the forefront of creating a stable, peaceful, and prosperous Middle East. And I have to say that I've seen such progress. It's really incredible. I've also seen great unity and friendships. I've spent a little time with you just before this, and I've seen tremendous unity, tremendous friendship, and the whole world is watching the Middle East, and many are watching with envy. You have something very special going on. Incredible opportunities are within reach for this region. If we can simply stop the aggression from a small group of pretty bad actors. I especially want to thank and congratulate the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain for their vision and courage in signing the historic Abraham Accords. I hope that in the near future we can continue that progress. We have a mandate from the American people, the likes of which people haven't seen for 129 years. They say it was the most consequential election in America in 129 years.
Now, the president even expressed a willingness to make a deal with Iran, but he issued a very strong warning, demanding an end to Iran's proxy wars and their unyielding sponsorship of terror around the entire world, the #1 state sponsor of terror. Take a look.
I want to make a deal with Iran. I want to do something if it's possible. But for that to happen, it must stop sponsoring terror, halt its bloody proxy wars, and permanently and verifiably cease its pursuit of nuclear weapons. They cannot have a nuclear weapon. I don't imagine there's anybody at this table or anybody in this room that would say they can. I'm strongly urging all nations to join us in fully and totally enforcing the sanctions that I just placed on Iran.
The president, he has been very clear over and over and over again that Iran will never have nuclear weapons or the enrichment of uranium. That must stop. He's been clear on that. Everything must be verifiable. He's also been clear. Nobody wants military strikes. Nobody. However, the world's #1 state sponsor of terrorism, coupled with their evil and extreme ideology, puts the entire region and world at risk. So President Trump is being very clear that will not happen on his watch. Now, make no mistake, there has been no bigger champion of peace in Europe, peace in the Middle East, than President Donald Trump. Bottom line, a peaceful Middle East is good for America. It is good for the region where we are. It is good for the entire world. This is not just good for our national security, but also our economy will benefit greatly. This brings to us some massive news from right here in Qatar earlier today. The red carpet, you can see it, by the way, rolled out for President Trump's arrival following Saudi Arabia's show of solidarity with the U.S. Qatar sent its own fighter jets up to escort Air Force One to its landing. By the way, what you're seeing there, I was able to film some incredible sights. And on the ground, in an incredible display from Qatar, President Trump's motorcade was escorted in part, you see there, by Tesla Cybertrucks. Anyway, just as they did yesterday in Riyadh. American flags were lining the streets of Doha as President Trump made his way to a meeting with the leader of Qatar right here, where, by the way, he did continue to deliver more victories for America and the American people, adding on to yesterday's $600 billion commitment from the Saudis yesterday, with a commitment to go up to $1 trillion, including nearly $150 billion purchased in weaponry. This trip could yield well over $1 trillion in the coming months. That means high-paying career jobs for the American people, and we are now nearing the $10 trillion in monies committed towards American jobs and manufacturing of things like, that are important: semiconductor chips, pharmaceuticals that will manufacture in America, automobiles will manufacture in America. President Trump, he signed a series of economic and defense agreements with the Emir of Qatar, including an agreement from Qatar Airways to purchase Boeing jets, which, according to President Trump, would include 160 Boeing jets. That's worth up to $200 billion. All told, the White House says today's agreements will generate more than $1 trillion in economic exchange between the U.S. and Qatar, bringing the total from this trip so far to trillions of dollars in investments. Over the first 2 days of the trip, President Trump has delivered one victory after another after another. You wouldn't know it from the legacy media mob, while simultaneously outlining a vision for a brighter future for the Middle East, a safer world, a better America, and it is now more abundantly clear than ever. In order to counter Iran, the Middle East has to go all in on Donald Trump and the United States and buy into peace, reject radicalism, don't turn a blind eye to radicalism, embrace the relationship of this historic trip.
There were others, too.
President Biden, my opinion, very much seemed to warm up through the 90 minutes of the debate and clearly beyond.
There's a lot of ageism there. More wild speculation from a bunch of people who have probably never been in a room with Joe Biden.
Cheap fakes, videos of real events that are intentionally manipulated to fool viewers.
We're hearing about so-called cheap fakes. It's playing out on right-wing media.
Karine Jean-Pierre and others are calling these cheap fakes. But what it is truly deceitful behavior.
It's amazing. Joe Biden wasn't running circles around anyone. The talking heads were circling their wagons around him. And now these new books are designed to protect the media. Listen to this fat boy spin.
Biden can't refute the basic facts of what happened. I think it is really interesting how Tapper and Thompson are also giving an answer to all the liberals, all the Trump opponents who are saying, why are you focusing on Biden? Why are you reporting out what went wrong with Biden? Well, the answer is right here in these first excerpts that are coming out. The authors say that, quote, Democrats deceived the country about Biden's abilities. And in the words of George Clooney, that's how Trump won.
I'm starting to think obesity isn't his biggest flaw. No, that's not even how Trump won. That's how Biden was forced out. Even Stelter's analysis of the truth is a lie. I tell him to eat, but with his diet, that would be an improvement. He's trying to shift the cover-up onto the Bidens as if his stubby, fat fingers weren't all over it. Sorry, I don't blame senile people for being senile. I blame the people who let them run the country. The media is now like the guy involved in a heist who narcs on the rest of his gang, hoping for immunity from prosecution. I wonder what the author of this shocking book thinks the bottom line is.
The bottom line is the White House was lying, not only to the press, not only to the public, but they were lying to members of their own cabinet. They were lying to White House staffers. They were lying to Democratic members of Congress, to donors about how bad things had gotten.
So the White House was lying to the press. Okay, case closed. Wow, you think the media would provide a little pushback against the word of the White House? I mean, they are journalists, right? If it were Trump, they would have. These so-called reporters, they're no better than Pornhub when they ask you if its users are over 18. Okay, you are? Great, here's your kangaroo porn. The White House's press job is to make the boss look good. Have you ever heard of spin? It's lying. And you challenge it by doing your job. But instead, you gaslit us for doing your job.
How do you think it makes little kids with stutters feel when they see you make a comment like that?
It's very clearly a cognitive decline.
Okay.
That's what I'm referring to. It makes me uncomfortable
You are
to watch somebody on stage search for
That's so amazing.
questions.
It's so amazing to me that
The Washington Post just put out a piece examining how President Biden embraces his stutter, talking about it, while Trump mocks it, exaggerates it, belittles it. He's sharp physically. I mean, mentally. Yeah. I think the question is physically, right? He's 81. And his memory, you know, it doesn't seem great. It's not horrible.
It's funny how we never saw him stutter before. And the last time I checked, stuttering doesn't make you wander off into the rainforest. But it doesn't matter. The media is dead, and there's no going back. You could blame the Dems or Dr. Jill, but no, this was self-inflicted. And their time of death, June 27th, 2024. Cue the bagpipes.
Farewell to fake authors trying to make extra bucks. Goodbye to the losers and stupid fat. You lied about Russiagate, the lab leak, and Jussie Smollett. You lied about Covington and thought we'd forget. You gaslit us on crime with more dirty tricks, and you convinced the world Taylor Swift was more than a 6. May you rest in pain.
Let's welcome tonight's guest. He often tells jokes in exchange for fresh underwear. Founder of StudioTSC.com, Michael Loftus. He can knock you out with his wisdom and his fists. Host of the Good Guy, Bad Guy podcast on ESPN, Chael Sonnen. She's solid muscle and her vocal cords hustle. Co-host of Outnumbered, Emily Campagno. And like a tea kettle, when he whistles, old ladies come. New York Times best-selling author, comedian, former NBA World Champion, Tyra. Michael, always great to see you. No matter how shabbily you dress, you still bring a smile to my face. I think the media now realizes what a huge scandal this is. It's like they realize there was a cover-up, but what they're trying to do now is distance themselves from the cover-up. That, oh my God, we didn't know, and the White House lied to us, and we bought the lie. No!
But here's what the media does. They always take it one step too far. Now they're trying to sell the idea that they were tricked. Like, just convincing us that you were tricked by Joe Biden and his staff, that's tough. But to write a book about it, to have Jake Tapper going, I was deceived. And I'm going to walk you through how they tricked me.
Yes.
It was so clever. That's like, you know, writing a book from the perspective of the captain of the Titanic, you know? There might be icebergs out here. I think we want to be careful around the iceberg.
Let me tell you what it was like.
Right? It was horrible.
Yes.
It was horrible.
But you know what? They attached this writer from Axios to CNN, Jake, so they could sell books. They didn't think that this would come back and blow out. Chell, you following this stuff? What do you make of this?
I read about this. A guy named Scott Ski out of Wilsonville, Oregon, wrote for the Tidings, and I read it this morning, and they may claim that John Fetterman read the exact same angle, that he can't read a teleprompter, and that he's getting confused, and he doesn't know basic directions. The difference was that Biden said, I'm fine. Your eyes are lying to you, to the voter. Whereas Fetterman said, listen, I have a problem, but if you bear with me and you show me a little bit of support and you send me to the next step, I can get the help and we can all do this job together. And very much it did feel like the same gimmick.
Mm-hmm. No, it's a good point. At least Fetterman was honest, but I mean, he couldn't really hide it. Biden, they hid him.
Sure.
They hid him, but it still drives me crazy that it's the media that is now trying to play the victim. Don't they deserve punishment?
Sure, but they took reality and they pushed it into the mouth of the volcano years ago. I mean, this really was one of these amazing things where you keep showing a guy. They tried that with Kamala as well.
Yes.
Like, we wouldn't fully know what was up with Kamala because they held her back. They said, don't answer any questions, stick to this script, only work with friendlies. That was a really big turnoff, particularly in this last cycle where Trump and even Vance were willing to come out and speak to everybody.
Yes, Emily, we've talked about this a lot. Do you have any new thoughts on this? Or will you recycle old thoughts and pretend that they're new, like we often do on other shows?
Well, I had good thoughts, but now I'm second-guessing seeing them. Whatever. What I was going to say, and maybe you've heard it before, but it just blows my mind the amount that they swallowed what was given them, that they recited the script given to them. Because here's the thing, when we see the contrast, remember the joke President Trump made, a joke about if he got the presidency again, the day one, yeah, I'll be a dictator.
Right.
The analysis that we got from all of those talking heads, the articles written about what he would do and what it all means, why was there not an iota of that same scrutiny when we did learn that the Parkinson's specialist visited Biden 6 times in 9 months? What about those denials? So I totally reject, obviously, the premise that they didn't have anything to do with it, but that simply they were lied to, because the whole point of the media is that they're supposed to be fact-finding. That's the investigations we're supposed to rely on. Here's who I think, however, needs to hold accountability. Who is at the top of those networks? The producers, the directors, the people truly in decision-making capacities. That talent on air, they're going to keep lying, they're going to keep spinning, they're going to keep trying to get their airtime. Everyone in those decision-making roles needs to terminate everyone, because the only accountability we're going to see is unemployment.
I think we should even go further with mass executions.
I'm down.
I'm kidding. That was a trick, Emily, to see if you'd be for it. You disgust me. Cyrus?
Yeah, I'm disgusted.
I am disgusted that you would be for mass executions.
Yes. Wow.
What can we say that we have? I feel like we were right.
We're not saying enough. We have to stop. There's no difference between everyone's talking about how horrible P. Diddy is.
Yeah. The
propaganda media is the same person.
Yes.
Biden is the victim. He's the gullible fool.
Yes.
They knew his arrogance. He refused to admit he was sick because he wanted to beat Trump. They knew. So they knew it.
They knew he'd be happy with the sunglasses and jacket.
He just wanted to be president.
Yes.
So, and his, was it Harold today? They talked about his 40 years of service. Yeah. He should have did 2.
Yeah.
Because he's worthless. But they were willing participants. They benefited from it. They profited. Lives were lost. Mm-hmm. Decisions were made. Do I need to remind everybody of Afghanistan? The president didn't make that call with a cue card.
Yeah.
The people who are doing it. So, and what do they have? They have the gift of the ignorance that is Joe Biden, who will still walk out and try to prove to everybody that he's not sick.
Yes.
So they will continue. And now they're like, oh, he tricked. No. This is what bad people do. When they have a fall guy, they put it all on the fall guy so they can continue business as usual. Mm-hmm. This, they talk about, how bad InfoWars was, that show.
Yeah.
How are they any different? And Tapper now, after misleading the American people, attempting to manipulate elections, knowing full well that they were lying, how is that any different than any other criminal thing? But, we're going to put it on Biden. Biden is a idiot. He refuses to admit he's sick. His family hates him so much they were fine with it. And the media and the people, the Pierres and the people in the back got to run a little progressive agenda, and everybody got to make decisions and leadership or whatever. No, this is not what we need to say. These books do is they are a blueprint for the crimes that they committed.
Yeah.
They're just telling they knew when bath time was. They knew when nap time was, and that's when they did their evil business.
All right. Up next, did Trump go to bat for Pete Rose?
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.